2025 was the year a lot of tech myths finally died. Things that worked in 2023 stopped working, old strategies became unproductive, and new ones emerged. A few trends were that Western Europe stopped being the only place where devs could get high salaries in Europe. Another trend was that the US stopped being the mecca of software engineering and high salaries. And another trend was that people started looking more into details beyond the total compensation figures, also taxes, cost of living, things like this. I track European tech jobs, salaries, taxes, purchasing powers, and location every single week as part of my job as the founder of Eurotop Tech, premier job platform for tech jobs in Europe. And I'm also the author of the European Engineer, which is, to the best of my knowledge, the #1 newsletter for tech careers in Europe. Over the internet, I have over 70,000 followers between my newsletter, my YouTube channel, my LinkedIn profile, for the content that I create and share on these topics. In this video, I will break down to you what changed last year in 2025 for tech workers in Europe, what became true, what stopped being true, and what you can expect from the new year, from 2026. If you work in tech in Europe, then this video is for you. Let's get into it. When I say that everything changed, I don't mean it lightly. As I guess you also know, in the past couple of years, a lot has changed in the market for tech workers, software engineers, worldwide and in Europe. As you might remember, if you are not too new to the industry, during COVID, around 2020, it was a year where 2021, where things felt very easy. It was the peak of the easy mode for software engineers. Low interest rates, companies hiring a lot, bull market overall, and in general it was still easy for software engineers back then. Later on, around 2023, 2024, things started looking a little bit more gloomy. Companies started doing major layoffs, especially big tech companies in the US. AI started popping from ChatGPT, Claude, and so on, and they started offshoring more, readjusting their headcount after overhiring during the 2021. And things started looking more gloomy for developers. It became harder to land jobs, and especially to land top jobs. But let's take it step by step. So what I started talking about is this this trend, right, of the end of easy mode, which it became quite clear in 2025, although it started much earlier, right? And these are a few articles I wrote in 2024, because one thing that people didn't understand is the market didn't just go down. The market reset a little bit, and geography played a role. So the biggest hit by far was in the US. And I wrote this article in May 20. So this is the article that I created back then in May 2024, where I started mentioning that I noticed how Google, for example, were hiring more in other locations like Brazil or Poland, much more than in a high-cost location like Zurich or even the US. And then here some mentioning of Google laying off employees to move to India and Mexico. And then I noticed kind of like the same trend for Meta and Databricks, which was hiring senior people in the Bay Area. But then most juniors, actually, they were hiring in Serbia at the time. So there were actually markets, like back in the days, for example, when I published this article in 2024, people said, if you are junior, you are completely screwed. But actually, if you were junior in Serbia, you were not that screwed. You could join companies like at Databricks, and these were the only junior positions they had in all of Europe. Then I mentioned here a few strategies, but this is beyond what I want to talk about now. And then as you started noticing also in the previous article, another thing I started mentioning it in April was if software engineers should move east. And here, at the time, this was quite a challenging idea, to be honest, when I started sharing it on LinkedIn. Because, you know, people would think that like Germany was a good place for software engineers, or Switzerland or the Netherlands. And no one would think from the West to go to Eastern Europe, for example. Although, to be fair, like even a decade ago, actually, apparently, developers in Eastern Europe, including Ukraine, Russia, Georgia, had it very good. They had an abundance relative abundance of remote roles, very low taxes, very low cost of living, and they had generally very good. But it was a bit of a well-kept secret, let's say, and definitely not mainstream knowledge in Western Europe. You would have very few developers from countries like Germany moving from countries like Poland or something like this. But as I started hanging out a bit in Warsaw, I started noticing this trend. And also while checking data for my products, from my newsletter and from my job platform, I started noticing, hey, what's going on here? Like actually most of the hiring among these big tech companies is happening in this area of Europe. And then, when you start checking like at the actual number, when you, for example, this case of a person I met in Warsaw, making about 150K, working for a US startup, then paying very little taxes and having a very contained cost of living in Warsaw, well, you would see how this was a great solution. So this was some of the topics that I started mentioning in 2024 as like this is not just the market getting bad, it's kind of the market readjusting from a time where some areas, geographic area had extreme privilege to others where there would be more growth and then opportunities would be more distributed across the globe. And then people in the right location would have more opportunities. So in the end, though, the trend, it is a bit bad, but more bad in this more old school, like originally privileged location, like the US or Western Europe. And then, this also is something that stopped or changed its value. Back in the days, like the goal was also like to be, working for Google in California. I don't know if you remember like the tech lead on YouTube or Clement Mia High School, like all this trend of like big tech in New York or in California getting like 200K or 300K compensation, these fancy big numbers. Back in the day, this had like a very big appeal. I remember it had a big appeal for me when I was in Europe looking online and being like, okay, I want to make 300K as well or something like that. But then I think people started to gain more awareness about the actual numbers that matter. And it's also how much you are left with after taxes, how much your rent is, how much is the cost of living in your city, what is going to be your saving rate, what is going to be your purchasing power, and are you in a high stress environment where there is a lot of layoffs and not a lot of hiring, or vice versa, in a more relaxed environment of an office that is expanding. And this leads us to say like the new role of the US, which if you look at Reddit, for example, CS Career EU, or anywhere on the internet, really, it's like, oh, developers in Europe make very little money and in the US they have it so much better, right? This started becoming less true. As I just explained, the US got a bit worse. Some other areas around the world saw more growth, also higher salaries, like growing salaries. For example, in India, the salaries that you have today working in a big tech companies are way higher than what you used to earn there like 10 years ago. If you're a staff engineer in India nowadays, in big tech, you can make like 200K. This is a lot of money if you are in India, like you are, I don't know, but you're bowling for real. And the same in Poland or Serbia or countries like this, In Poland, if you are a senior engineer in a good company, you can easily make 150K euros per year, total compensation, for example. So yeah, also then recently there were this visa problem with Trump, which made it even less appealing. Cost of living skyrocketed in the US. Europe caught up a little bit, I would say, relatively. In Europe, there is still way less opportunities than in the US, but there is also less competition to some extent, because it attracts way less competent engineers from around the world, from Asia especially, instead of in the US the competition is quite high because it is more renowned market. A lot of people move there, a lot of top universities. People know how to navigate the market. They have a very good job search strategy compared to Europe on average. So it can be more competitive there. But still, even in Europe, these top positions are not easy. Then remote started kind of like becoming a bit more codified as well, right? So remote was an option since COVID, a bit of a new thing. Some people had been doing it for longer than COVID, but at a very niche level. And then during COVID, it kind of became mainstream. It became more mainstream, but still not codified. Like people were mostly working from home, from their house, for their on-site jobs that they had. and maybe sometimes trying out traveling and working from abroad. But it was not like a defined career strategy. Like you wouldn't have people saying, oh yeah, now I'm looking for remote roles. I'm actually shooting for 6-figure remote roles, trying out these strategies. I'm trying to network to get referrals at these companies. People wouldn't even know what were the companies hiring fully remotely, right? Because every company was remote. And then when COVID finished, people started getting pushed back into the office, and some people were like, okay, I want to stay remote. I don't want to go back to the office, And then the desire for this type of work arrangement started to rise. And that's when like companies like Airbnb, for example, started claiming, we are hiring remote, or Spotify with their thing, we don't treat our employees like kids or something like that. So this new trend of companies hiring remotely, maybe at a lower salary than the top paying in highest cost locations companies did. For example, a company like Airbnb could afford to pay less than a Google in New York City to retain the same level of talent. And this became a trend, and I kind of wrote about it early on. And in my opinion, this trend of this type of this is a popular article I did in October 2024. And I say that this, I think, is the new thing. Like, this is the new type of work that people want. But a bit of things we just discussed right now. And in the end, like I say, working an on-site job in a FANG that is doing layoff, that it has a shit ton of applicants because they have a very strong brand name. And, they really have the leverage at this point. It's not a leverage of the employees like it used to be, like the Google early days, but it's really like a place where, the companies make the rule. It's an employer's market and stuff like that. So basically you end up with, you have great pay. You don't have very, very good work-life balance because there are layoffs, and they want more efficiencies. The pay is not rising as much anymore. And then the stability is gone because there are very many layoffs, purchasing power decreasing because the cost of living in these top locations is rising, like New York, California, and so on. And so I think remote work is the new thing. You can get 6-figure remote jobs somewhat easily, to be honest. And you have a crazy lifestyle. Like, if you can choose to work wherever you want and you're making 6-figure, you can have it very good. You can really choose based on what you want. You don't have to live in a shithole. You can choose if you want a sunny place or a place with a very modern infrastructure. In Asia, in Europe, there is really plenty of options. In Latin America. And so on. So this was a trend that also happened towards late 2024, in my opinion. This is another article I made about low-cost, low-tax countries. Of course, if you are remote, then financially, if you find a low-cost, low-tax country where you have it good, meaning where you have a good lifestyle, a good life quality, then it's going to make the financial equation work much better for you. And here I started listing some of these places. You can go check the article. I, in general, post a lot about this stuff, so you can just follow me somewhere else, and you will find. So then also, I think towards the end of 2024, Europe started to look a bit better, not better than the US, but at least the question is a question that could be asked. Before, as we mentioned, it's like, the US was the default best thing. But then later on, we are like, okay, if you consider all the variables, maybe now it's less clear which one is a better region. Here I mentioned that something that already anticipated, that there were more offshoring and nearshoring happening, which kind of reduced a little bit the attractiveness and the opportunities in high-cost locations like Western Europe or the US. Significant expansion in Central and Eastern Europe. If you are European, as most of my audience is, then like you need to do, by now you should know that, I wrote about this like back in the days. I don't know, I made the first article about Poland in August 2024. Has Poland become the best place? And you can go check it out. But in general, Poland, I think it is right now the best place for software engineers in Europe in terms of opportunities, salaries, cost of living, life quality. And so this was, as I just showed, in August 2024. And not to brag, but then we have nowadays like other people that talk about, careers, like this Bella guy, I don't know, but he has kind of like a community for European founders or something. And he's like, I spent 3 days in Warsaw and the energy like is crazy. There is a lot of growth. And they talk about this a lot since a couple of years now. Then even Gergely, like this is 1 month ago, he was like, okay, I have to admit I was surprised to meet engineers and engineering managers today in Warsaw office of all these companies. Can't name another city in Europe save for London with this much concentration of big tech and hot startups. And I've been saying this for a couple of years now. So this is definitely like a trend, like Central and Eastern Europe. There is also another post I made about, actually, you can even just go to levels FYI. And then they have this data by location. Salary heat map, I think you need to do. Salary heat map, and then you need to go to you. And these are the salaries. The darker it is, the higher the salaries. But if you adjust for cost of living, you will see how Poland is now the best country, pretty much better than Switzerland by far. 100k, 84. 105 is Germany. And then look at this, Serbia. This is what I've been saying. So this has been a big trend, I think, in the last year. This became clear. And now this is clear, in my opinion. There have been signs of growth in Spain. I think there was some time early this year, I've mentioned it somewhere in some other post, where big tech started expanding in Spain. But then it stopped kind of. Now it plateaued a little bit. I'm just going to show you something. And I have this data page where basically you can contribute. I have over 1,000 contribution. People share their salary, how much they are savings, how many people they are supporting, and some stuff like that. And here you can see kind of like a ranking of the best countries, the best cities, based on a composite score of these metrics. I wanted to check something else. In the home page, you can see that there are some... Where are the jobs? So basically the top countries by number of jobs, for example. So here in Spain, when I mentioned this, is because here I saw, okay, Spain is hiring a lot these days. And now a bit less. Switzerland, Germany, these other countries usually considered very good, had very few hiring in the past 2 years. And in 2025, it became clear that these are stagnant offices. For example, Google Zurich, it has 4,000 employees today, and it had 4,000 employees roughly 10 years ago. It has not grown. It has hired some people, fired some people. I think it has shrinked, honestly. Whereas, for example, Google Warsaw, like it didn't exist 10 years ago, and now is thousands of people. So you can see where the growth is going. Same for Germany, same for the US. So here I have a few posts that I prepared, I think yesterday night, yes, on X. And just some data, like here in this post that I will show, there will be some data of some time ago, like this, top 10 locations with the most jobs. And this is something I recorded a few, like in November 2024, I think. And then on the left, something I saw yesterday. So we can see where the jobs went. And yes, just for full context, in the job board, there are 2 areas, big tech jobs, which is like big tech and scale up jobs, like top paying but on site or hybrid, and then fully remote jobs, kind of like companies that you can work everywhere, more or less. And these rankings are for the big tech jobs, so not for the fully remote. But yeah, so the companies, we can see Datadog is hiring a bit less, Nvidia is hiring a bit less, Wise is hiring a bit more, and the other big techs more or less stable. This didn't change all that much. This is the top 10 companies for remote jobs right now on my platform for fully remote jobs. The jobs again, this is in terms of not companies but locations. So you can see that London rebound because it was still first, but not by too much margin, whereas now it's first by a substantial margin. So London is the city in Europe with by far the most big tech and similar jobs. Warsaw has been quite stable, so it means that this is like a bet that paid off for big techs. They started hiring in Warsaw, like even in 2024. It was the first city with the most jobs in Europe, and it is still the 4th city. So it means that they've been hiring steadily for like years on, and they're not stopping. And that's what I mentioned also, like Google Warsaw, like just expanded massively in the last 10 years. Stockholm rose. I think this is also because of Lovable and the related ecosystem of AI startup. Paris, Germany, not great. Amsterdam rebounded recently. So Amsterdam was always a bit of a pole, but in 2025 didn't hire all that much. but now it's back at hiring quite a bit. Dublin also always doing kind of good. And this is a bit of a summary. As I mentioned here, like Spain got a little boost. I think back then when there was this boost in Spain of a lot of tech jobs, of high-paying companies, this was a good time to apply, because in Spain you have not a lot of competitions. People from other countries are not looking to move to Spain for top jobs usually. Mostly they do for chilling. And the locals are not that strong. Like if you are competing for big tech jobs in Spain, it's going to be 10 times easier than if you are competing for big tech jobs in Zurich. So I wrote an article back then. I think it was a great time in April 2025 to apply. Spain was third, a lot of companies that were hiring, and this was a good time. Like it was easy mode. If you apply here with a referral, you would get an interview and it would not be too hard to pass, and you would enter big tech in Spain. What I mentioned before is like why salaries became a bad metric. But so I also don't want this video to become too long. I don't know, take a little break, 1 minute or something, and then we move on. I'll try to not make it too long, but I hope it is insightful so far. Let me know in the comments if you find it insightful or not, if you prefer shorter videos. This is the goal of this video is kind of like to have a video that I make once, and then you can go review it. You can watch it again. You can start it. Then if you're bored, you can save it and watch later and watch it again, maybe on the TV when you have a bit of time, just to get like an overview, of what went on in the Europe tech market in the past 2 years and what to expect in the next few years. I think it's gonna be, this is like I'm summarizing here a lot of the insights I've gained in these few years. By the way, I'm not just the founder of this company, I'm also a software engineer, and then I navigated the tech market myself. I studied engineering in Milan. I'm originally from Italy. And then I started working in Switzerland as a software engineer. Then I did a master's degree in computer science. Then I worked in Spain for Amazon and for some other companies. Then I went back to Switzerland in Zurich. I worked for a European consulting firm. And then I worked for Oracle, for the MySQL team in Zurich as well. So I researched the market very well. I also considered moving to the US back in the days when I was 23, 25. And so on. So I'm kind of like an expert or the expert on European tech careers by now. I started posting on LinkedIn roughly 2 years ago. Now I have almost 60,000 followers there. My newsletter has 15,000 subscribers, and I talk about these things. So I'm just saying this in case you are new here, then you're like, who is this guy yapping about tech careers? I'm kind of like, as you've seen also, the guy like figuring out the mechanisms behind the market in Europe first on the internet, even before very big and smart people like Gergely and so on. So, and in this video here that you're watching right now, I'm kind of like condensing all the major insights of the past 2 years since I started this job, where I like really every day I check this type of stuff. And so that's why the video is going to be a bit long, but in my opinion is like the primer to understand Europe tech career. Like you don't know anything, you watch this video, then you understand more or less how to move. With a focus on what's changed. So of course there are many things you can say about this type of topics, but this is like a focus on how the landscape shifted in the past couple of years. Let's go on. So why salary became a bad metric? I mentioned this at the beginning, right? Like, okay, total comp is not that great of a metric nowadays. It is important, obviously, but you need to see like how much goes away in taxes, how much is the cost of living, how much is the social security, where do your social security contribution end up? Are you gonna get a pension? Are you just wasting money? So all these things are important. If you're now just looking at like salary, like 100 versus 200K, this is very poor way to look at it. So you need to do complex analysis, right? Here, I mean, I don't know what this is linked, but I do analysis like this all the time as part of my newsletter. So here I say like this one was where April 2025, Italy is kind of the worst because you have high taxes, low salary, the social security system is shit. So what you pay in taxes is wasted pretty much. And yeah, Central Eastern Europe is pretty goated, as I mentioned, because you have very good salaries for devs. Cost of living is not so high. And for lifestyle, somehow Italy is not so bad. This is kind of like this score is in the document I showed earlier, where users report their financial data. And in Italy, apparently, people have a good purchasing power. I think it's because lifestyle items are not so expensive in Italy. And then I mentioned here other countries. I cannot go too much into detail. June ranking. You see, like in the end here, as I mentioned, this is something I started earlier this year. And now it has more data. So you can just go to eurotoptech/data and see the entire data. But I kind of have this framework where you have yearly savings, how much you save each year. This is the average of all the contribution per country. How many people you support with your salary. This is kind of like, the more people you support, the more this salary allows you to do. And the lifestyle score, which is 1 is frugal and 3 is luxurious. Most people are in the middle, but not all are the same. And you can see countries in Central Eastern Europe do very well, even to this day. If you go here, top 5 is all Central Eastern Europe. And this is now like with the good enough data, to be honest, because 25 contribution for Serbia, 32 for Romania, 58 for Poland, 58 for Switzerland. So this is enough data to say how things are, And you can see like in Serbia, people save 20K per year and they support 2 people and they have a luxurious lifestyle almost. And, for example, in the UK, which is still a great country because London really is the top city in Europe for availability of top jobs, people save a bit more, okay, almost twice, but then the life costs a lot more. You can afford to have fewer kids and you have less purchasing power. Germany is the fucking worst. You save 20K per year, less than in Serbia, less than in Romania, less than in Poland, less than in Lithuania. This is money you put in your pocket, like at the end of the year, You don't support a whole lot of people, 1.7, and you are not living too luxuriously, although not too bad. But this is kind of like one of the worst deals out there. Poland, in my opinion, is one of the best deals. You can save 30K on average, which is a lot. You can support quite a few people, and you have a pretty good lifestyle. Switzerland, let's look at it. It's a kind of the main anti-pattern with regards to East and West. It's a bit of a case on itself because it has lower taxes. That's why you end up with the higher savings. But it's very expensive. So a lot of people, as you see here, they don't support many people. They don't have big families generally. Or if they have, their partner needs to work and pay for a lot of it as well. But they also feel like they have high purchasing power. For example, if you're in Switzerland and you have a Swiss salary, then when you go on holiday, you can splurge a bit or you can do more shopping. So generally, it will allow you to have a good purchasing power. And if you look at the city ranking, it's going to be pretty similar. But as you can see, London actually does much better than the UK and better than other cities, and which is why the UK there is quite good. It's basically thanks to London. All right. One thing I added to make this type of analysis even more complete, you see, like careful analysis is needed. I also added this other rank here by how much devs are happy or satisfied with the tax services. You can see here I put these new columns, and this is kind of like how people report that they're happy, just like how happy are you 1 to 10 and they report it, and how much are you satisfied from the tax paid services. And because from this other thing, you can see how much you save, how much you spend, but you don't say, for example, one thing people complain often about this type of countries is, but the infrastructure is shit, healthcare is not so good, the schools are not so good, which is not true for Poland, but maybe for Romania and Serbia a bit more. And that's why I created this other ranking, right? And here you can see that like Serbia is not as high as in the other rank, although happiness is quite good. People are happy generally, I guess. Maybe they have good enough salaries. Netherlands does pretty well. Switzerland in this sense does pretty well, especially for the infra and so on. This is just to show that an effort to make this analysis more thorough. I made an article about where to go if you are a young developer in August 2025. I think this is interesting if you are a junior engineer. Back in the days, maybe I would have gone. So I went to Zurich as a junior engineer, and it was okay. Allowed me to have to save a good amount of money, and Zurich is not so bad. But today I would probably go to Warsaw instead. It's more fun. If you are in your 20s, you're gonna have more fun, and there are more opportunities. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there is more companies hiring. You're gonna struggle less to find good jobs, and you're gonna have a great lifestyle. And then also London is not too bad. I think London used to be better earlier. these days, like this guy who is a new grad junior engineers in London, he says I would have rather started in Warsaw at this point. Generally because it's better lifestyle, more safe, more fun, better dating, he mentions also. And then you can optimize for money later on and for fun and growth. I agree, to be honest, and that's also why I would say that. So this is another trend, if you want, like best cities for young people. At some point, there was even a moment where Poland in May had, in this salary sharing document that I showed you, like here, right, financial data, where here you can go to country details and then you can rank for pre-tax total comp and filter for enough submissions. And there was a moment where Poland had higher pre-tax TC than Germany. Now Germany rebounded, but like you can see, it's the same, 90k, 89. But yeah, in August there was a moment where I lost it again now. But there was a moment where Poland started paying more than Germany, which was a bit crazy, to be honest. I made an article about it. Even in absolute terms, that then of course after tax it would be even higher in Poland, and what you would do with it after tax money would be even higher in Poland because of the lower cost of living and so on. I made 3 articles about social security. This is important because in the end you're paying taxes, and where are this money going, right? Like, are you gonna see some of it? Do you need to save more because you're not gonna have a pension? And this is a very strong case for Switzerland, because pension system in Switzerland is pretty good. Also in Poland is not that bad. You generally pay less in social security than in other countries. Honestly, EU countries, I think right now, I'm a bit skeptical. Most of them are not very sustainable in their pension systems. This doesn't work anymore now because the market is more competitive. If you don't know like how to do job search properly, how to network with people, how to apply with referral, how to have a good CV, you're gonna struggle a lot. And also how to make a good strategy in your job search. You know, which companies to target, which locations to target, which vertical to target, all this kind of stuff. I have a coaching program where like people get a lot of results. They get a lot of support from me. You need to be good to enter the program, but then you get results, you know. And then I see people complaining that there is no job, the market is shit. The market is just more competitive. If you are just handling it like it was 5 years ago, of course you're not gonna get a job. Like if your CV is 2 pages and poorly written and so on, and you apply with auto referral, doesn't matter if you're good, you're not gonna get an interview. Juniors versus seniors, it changed. For example, you need to think, like the too long didn't read here on junior versus senior is, if you are junior, you need to take location into account. For example, as I mentioned already, Central Eastern Europe, more opportunities, easier to enter top companies. Once you have the top companies and the top experience on your CV, you gain leverage and then you can switch, you know. You can have lower expectations. You need to grind a bit more. It is as it is. If you don't do these things, you're going to enter into shit companies and you're going to stay stagnant in your career, most likely. But if you're a good senior, you have a lot of options. If you do this stuff well, you know, like doing this job search well and so on, then if you're a senior, you have a lot of options today, actually, both on-site and remote. In my opinion, remote for senior is the way to go. But even on-site, you can have great opportunities. This is kind of like about, it is about remote and also about vibe coding and business, indie hacking. There is a bit of a trend now, like to make money online, even for developers, right? It used to be that only, you know, Dubai gurus, dropshipper, people like this like to make money online. Nowadays, it's also developers because of the indie hacking movement. Maybe you know it or don't know it, but basically people just vibe coding or coding the small apps and selling them online and dreaming to get a lifestyle and make a living off that. It's very good. I mean, it is what I do at the end of the day, right? I started creating content 2 years ago. I grew a big audience. I started doing coaching. Then I launched my platform, and this is what I do now full time. It is great. Like for me, it is a really good lifestyle. I prefer it much more to working in tech. I wrote some articles about it. I can make another video about it on the differences of these two types of career and lifestyles. And there is nothing wrong if you want to shoot for this type of career and lifestyle. I think it's great, but it is way, 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 way harder than people think, in my opinion. I grind quite a lot in my new job, and I make still less than what I used to make as a software engineer in Zurich. So, you really need to like it. For most people, that's what I wrote in this article also. If you're a developer, you're quite likely to find a better remote life with a job. In the end, not everyone can be a content creator. You cannot even control if you're gonna get an audience or not. You can start posting and see where it goes. But it has pros and cons also. It's like, I like my life more now. I have more flexibility. But for me, it works. But I'm also a bit peculiar as a person. Not everyone is the same. And in general, I would say, even if you want to do that, I would say it's better to build up some savings so you have some flexibility and some buffer to make experiments. Then you can get a flexible job. You can get a remote job. If you're a senior developer, even with 3 or 4 years of experience, you can get a 6-figure remote job, and already you kind of have already my lifestyle pretty much, especially if your new job is not meetings heavy or even async, then it's pretty much the same lifestyle, especially like if you prefer to code rather than make videos like this one or things like this. And then on the side, if you want, you can experiment, you can create content, you can create SaaS tool, you can start freelancing, you can write a book, you can do whatever you want. And then if some of the stuff picks up, you can then invest in it and so on. In general, I think there is a fluid job market. The fact that today I'm doing this doesn't mean that tomorrow I will not take a job. And if today you are taking a job, doesn't mean that tomorrow you cannot do this. So you can be a bit open-minded. I would beware of dream sellers. Technically, I'm selling access to a job platform, so you could consider me as a dream seller of tech careers. But I am quite honest in my content. That's my reputation is quite clean in this sense. I've been posting for 2 years and so on. But like, there is a lot of people that sell you, like if a guy, for example, without making names, is selling you like tools to build a startup, and they say that you should build a startup, like I would second guess what they're saying, right? Because probably they have an incentive to you to wanting to build a startup. In the same way as me, like if I tell you, oh, you should get a good job, and then I sell you access to good jobs, you should also like have a critical, maybe you shouldn't get a good job, maybe you should go chill and get an average job and have a better work-life balance. I don't know. But you need to beware of people incentives, whenever you listen to someone online. All right, what do we have left? We're almost done here. This is kind of like a bullet point, right? As I mentioned before, like people wanted to move to Germany or Switzerland. Nowadays, in the end, you can have a good career everywhere in Europe, depending on what you value. You really need to figure out what you value more, right? Do you value high purchasing power? Do you value high saving rate? Do you value sunny weather? Do you value relaxed lifestyle? Do you value safety on the streets? Like whatever it is that you value, there's gonna be a place, but it's not so clear cut as it was before. I think opportunities are spread out more. Remote didn't die. I think this is like a really big trend that some people, I think in 1 or 2 years, everyone will want to go 6-figure remote in Europe in tech. Right now, people still think that going to work in Zurich is better, but I think in 2 years, like the people will agree. I get a lot of results for people. People say it's difficult, but it's not, for fuck's sake. Like people say, getting a high-paid remote job is impossible. It's really not. Like this was December, so 1 month ago, pretty much. And I had a guy who joined, and after 3 weeks, he quadrupled his salary. I'm not kidding. Like he was making around 30, 40K. And then got a job for 170K. He got a bit lucky in my opinion, or I don't know, he's probably very good, he was very underpaid, whatever. But I've had a lot of people getting results. Where is the coaching program now? I had a lot of people getting results in the past year. You can see this is all 2025. A lot of these people have name and surname. You can even just find them on LinkedIn, text them, see where they got the jobs. And this is not bullshit, okay? And people get the jobs, but you need to actually the same shit that we do in my coaching program. So you need to tackle the job search carefully, not just send CV, half-ass CV, without a referral to random companies, without doing a strategy. This is not how it works. Yeah. Prestige died, as we mentioned. You don't like working for Google in New York doesn't mean anything anymore. Looking at the data. You should look at what actually is the data behind things. I have this page, Eurotech data. You can see there the data or some analytics based insights. Look at this stuff and not at common knowledge or stereotypes. What did I want to check? Mentioning the coaching program. So I will do a little plug of this platform, but not because I have enough customers. So But here you have the jobs, right? You don't have enough money for the coaching program. You don't like the coaching program. It's fine. Actually, I don't even have a lot of positions, so I cannot even sell it to everyone. You have the jobs. Then getting these jobs is complicated and it's not easy. They are competitive jobs, whether it is on-site or they are remote. These are competitive jobs. What do? You go here and you get a gold tier subscription. This is 89 euros per year. Like, I mean, if you are trying to get from 60k to 150k, if you cannot spend 90 euros per year, then it's your problem. And here there are some guides on CV on how not to burn out. This is the number one cause that makes people not achieve these roles. LinkedIn, skills pattern analysis. This is how to do like a database job strategy for your job search, like which industry to target, which type of companies, which role, which job title, and so on, which location. And this is a general guide. Then, if it wasn't enough, you have this tracker, which is going to help you model your job search. And then the AI lab that I also did, where you're going to have the CV reviews and the skill pattern analysis doing it automatically. So I will do another video about some recent changes on this platform and how they can help you. Also the community here, you can get referrals and stuff like that. How this platform can help you, I will make a new video. So just subscribe if you want to get a notification. I will probably post it a few days after this video. So if you want to get good at Europe Tech careers, you need to get working and invest some time, a few months, a bit of effort, build a good strategy, execute, use the right tools, and it is definitely possible. I always say it's better to do this stuff in first quarter. Last year I mentioned like January and February, this is when most of the hiring happens. In the new year headcount, companies get new headcount. I measured it last year and it is indeed the case that this is true. Like also the coaching result that I mentioned earlier, no? The guys who quadrupled, he got the offer in January. So I think it is related. So I would just start now. I would prioritize strategy. If you don't know what it is, I have free articles on strategy. Just go to the European Engineer, click strategy, and there's going to be some articles about strategy. You need to have a strategy and how to build it, read it there. Then if you buy the product, there is also this analytics way to build the strategy. This is even better. You should kind of optimize for these other things. Look for overlooked opportunities. Like if you apply to Google Poland, it's going to be much easier than applying to Google Zurich, way easier. And because you have less competition, but it's not going to be less good, for example. It doesn't have to be Poland, it can be other things. It depends on your specific case. If you work in AI, Zurich can be good as well. Yeah, if you want to start experimenting with like non-employment stuff to build some sort of autonomous income, you can do it. I would kind of advise you to assess what are your priorities. If your priority is to go remote as soon as possible, I would prioritize looking for a remote job. If you are already mid-level or senior. If you're a junior level, I would prioritize getting to mid-year level or senior level without a remote job and then looking for a remote job. I would, if you want the remote lifestyle, like the one you see online, making money online, I wouldn't prioritize building a business because it can be that you try to build it for 10 years and it doesn't work and you have not gone remote and you're living with your parents. So I would, prioritize accordingly. If you are already remote and you like your job and you want to experiment, great. I think it's a good idea. So to close up, I mentioned the European Engineer is the signal, like all this stuff that we're talking about today, January 2026. I talk about it in 2024, a lot of it, some of it in 2025. Remote Goats is another newsletter that I have for remote. The ones of you who are already remote with their careers, you might find this one interesting. It's more about best countries to set up, best countries to live, taxes, cost of living, lifestyle, stuff like that. They are both free. You can subscribe to both of them for free. And you can check my other content in all platforms. Even here on YouTube, I already have some insightful video that I made last year. Maybe you will find some of them interesting. You can, if you want to work with me, I have a coaching program. Feel free to apply, and you should also check out Eurotop Tech. I think this is the best entry level product you can buy. Before applying to the coaching program, I would try out this. It's way cheaper, and it can already be helpful, and you can already make some progress on your own. You don't need to pay me a lot to make progress. You can already make progress on your own. Actually, you can even make it for free if you look at this, but I would recommend investing a bit in this. And we're back on YouTube. I will be posting more videos like this, even shorter on specific topic. This is kind of like a primer video that I mentioned. I would do, and like a resource that you can go over and over if you forget some stuff. And yeah, I will in the next few days publish a demo of the Eurotop Tech platform, because I did a lot of changes recently and I want to demo them in a video more properly. So expect a video about that. Otherwise, I post every day on X and on LinkedIn. You can follow me there, and you can subscribe to these two newsletters, the European Engineer and Remote Goats, based on what you're interested in. Thank you so much for watching. If someone arrived until here, let me know in the comment or send me a message wherever. If you have any advice for my future videos, let me know as well. Other than that, I wish you the best in this year and a great rest of the day. Bye bye.